Thank you for tuning into the War Room. YK of NeoStrategy, how are you?
Superb, superb. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. Look, I like to start the conversations off with one question in particular because of what it does for the tone, right? Now, so far, I've gotten the sense that you are a very prepared person, even though you're also welcome to new information coming in and making something from that. But I do get a sense, like a strong concerted effort sense of being prepared, which makes sense as a strategist, right? It seems to be your bent and personality. So I have to ask, uh, do you come from a family of entrepreneurs?
Nope.
I see. Okay. And now, how did you decide to break away from the path that you're generally coming from?
Yeah. So I come from a typical, corporate career background. So I had worked in corporates for 20 years. So I got into this out of, I would say, bit of a pain and bit of a luck. So both together. So I'm always a freedom seeking guy. I always want to do something on my own, something that stands out, a unique type of thing. So I didn't knew what I could do, what I would do, but I continued in a typical normal corporate world for 20 years, and then finally I found what I'm good at. So that's where I ended up starting my own consulting company called NeoStrategy.
Okay.
So it's basically the two things: freedom plus what I'm good at. I wanted to combine both. That's it.
Freedom. This is something that Jason and I constantly highlight, but Jason always calls it out. He's like, see, this is what I love about the stories that I'm listening to. It's always driven by freedom. Is that accurate, Jason? Have we, how many people have we had say that the reason they started business was for freedom?
Yeah, I mean that's always it's always the underpin of most entrepreneur or business owners is it's this idea that we want the freedom to be able to allocate our time the way we want to do it, so on and so forth. We want to work with the people we want to work with, and all those things, right? And it's entrepreneurship and business ownership. I mean, it's not for everybody, obviously. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. So it's not easy. It's a challenge most of the time, right? But the challenge is worth it when you're able to work in your own space, right? And somebody's always in charge of you, no matter what. If it's not somebody that's in charge of you, it's then your customers are in charge of you. So you're always reporting to somebody, no matter what. But the difference is you get to pick and choose who you get to report to. So
yeah. So more than yes, one is the reporting part. So more than reporting, it's just the freedom of expression, right? So you have to have that platform and the avenue for you to express your talents and strengths. So some places are not right for you, some places are good for you, but eventually I kind of found out that the best place for me to be is operate in a space where I'm good at, and also having that freedom to do on my terms. As you rightly said, on my terms doesn't mean that I don't have a customers, I don't have a responsibility. You would have, but you would love to have those kinds of responsibilities. That's the difference.
Yeah. No, and I can imagine in the corporate world, that wasn't necessarily a freedom you had access to. Even like, I'm sure they didn't allow you to jump on the projects you wanted to jump on, to work with the people you wanted to work on. Is that the primary reason why you stepped away, or were you just tired after 20 years? You're just like, I just need to do something different.
No, see, all my 20 years of corporate, I had, some extremely good times and some are normal, boring, whatever these things. So I think it was like, it's not about the projects, it's not about the bosses or anything. It's just about, the talents that I wanted to do it in my own way. See, it's simple like this, right? So, you're working in a large corporate, right? You work under some frameworks and methodologies. Your creation normally doesn't come out naturally because there are systems, process, methodologies, frameworks. So you have to work under the framework. So nothing wrong with it. Just that for me, I wanted to express it in my own way, and I didn't knew what it was. So it was very thrilling and very interesting to see creating something out of nothing. So that's what excited me. So if I had to continue, I would have continued in corporate side. I don't think it would have been extremely problem, but then I found something what I'm good at. So that's where all this journey started. So yeah, a lot of people, I think, see, it's not, I don't believe that it's like a corporates are bad, this is bad, or that's bad. It's just that you need to figure out what your true needs are, what your true passions are, what your true strengths are, and then whichever platform it gives you, you can do it. There are some people who do extreme level in corporate, so it suits for their personality. So it didn't suit for me so well. I mean, at the same time, I did reasonably well in all the corporate my corporate career. It's just that I found a lot more I could do, when I'm on my own. It's as simple as that.
You can squeeze more juice out of the work as an
Oh, yeah.
entrepreneur. Yeah,
Lot
yeah.
more, yeah, lot more opportunities, lot more challenges, lot more revenues, bigger world, right? So this is what I wish I could have done a little early, but no regrets, because all my 20 years of corporate background had given me the base and the platform and the profile, so which helps. But I'm glad I could do it at the age of 42, I believe, when I started. So 42 or 41. So
Very nice.
it's
And
been like 3.5, close to 4 years now, since I started this. Yeah, extremely happy, extremely fulfilled, extremely. Every minute of my life I look forward. So there is no single day or minute or time I had anything like resistance inside me. So it's always looking forward. Every strategy session gives me a lot of dopamine. So that's what I look forward.
that's an interesting, breakdown. It seems that you find that the work itself is rewarding, and that's really a trigger I think not enough people pay attention to. I'm glad that you brought that up. Now, my curiosity is NeoStrategy the first company that you started, and it's just been successful since?
Yes, this is my first venture.
Wow.
This is my first venture. See, I didn't knew all of these things, to be honest. So I was fortunate enough to find all these things. And I did realize I could figure out and fix things much faster, much better, and much strategically. I had no idea. I thought these all are like some rubbish stuff. When I was working in corporate stuff, those rubbish things became like more valuable things. So my ideation, my strategy, my problem solving, I thought uh, like everybody does it kind of a thing. But then I realized those are really valuable.
Do you remember what your first engagement with a client was like when you first launched? Was that rocky, or did you just seem to have a knack for it?
Yeah, and yes, actually, so yeah, my first engagement was one of my known person had asked me about doing some small problem like recruiting some staff. So I just took that as a challenge, and I figured out I could easily do it. And later on, right, it is very interesting. So none of the things today what I do, I had no idea that I could do it. It's just that every time when I was actually working with the clients, it just comes out, right? So that's when I realized that's why what I call is the talents, right? The natural talents or gifts you have. So the difference between the talent versus a skill you have to learn, practice, but talent just it opens up, it comes naturally. So I never had to struggle a single thing. Every time I face extremely unknown areas, and I never felt any uncomfortable. I think my problem solving brain actually gets excited about it. So it just happened. So, and then the initially first 4 or 5 engagements after I have done, I realized that it's there with me. So there is no looking back. I don't think I had to sit and learn anything honestly in this job. What I do, it's just there. So it's as simple as that.
Really interesting. Now, you say that you do long-term engagements, like 3-4 years, right?
Mhm.
Are you finding that this is the business model moving forward for you? Is this
Yeah.
your current goal to get more clients that, or do you have another goal?
Yeah, so actually, I started off with more of an executive coaching, so one-on-one personal coaching type initially, very beginning. Within 6 months or 9 months, I found out that I could leverage my other strengths in the business side. Actually, I didn't had idea that I could do. So when I started cracking small problems, small challenges for entrepreneurs, there's a lot like reasonably small. I mean, smaller engagements, 6 months kind of engagements. After I have done a couple of years of engagements, and I realized that the for me to bring all my strengths together. Like, because I had corporate experience, I had done sales, marketing, the account management, different kinds of roles, in innovation roles, and little bit of delivery. So when I took all these things, I wanted to basically use them as a packaged way. The best way to take it is to work with a company, play like a co-CEO role, and then grow the company in the long term. So any short-term engagement, basically either you're fixing a specific problem, but the companies, my clients, the kind of clients I work with, that just a simple problem solving is not going to take them to the next thing. So there is no like simple training shortcuts won't help, right? There are like small, but they need a bigger roadmap, bigger strategy, hand holding the client for long term. So that is why I choose. And luckily, fortunately, we could create very good results for most of my clients. So that is when I said, hey, I am right now in the business of building, you know, we take a businesses at $1 million and then we help them to grow up to 15 to $20 million. So that is the kind of business we make. We don't take like a brand new startups, but the business need to have a basic revenues, basic teams. That's when we actually keep building the building blocks. Like, for example, we work with, I mean, the way we work with the CEO and the co-founding team, and we build the next level teams, and we build the sales, marketing, operations, culture, recruitment, innovation, all those things. So it takes time to build each building block. If you just come and say, hey, I know how to fix your email marketing, or I know how to fix sales, it helps, but they need long term. So that's where I could found a way to do this. I have built a lot of frameworks, intellectual property we built. It works very well. So one of my strengths is basically the strategy. The other thing is people. So I have a very natural talent to bring both of them together work. So if you're just giving just a PPT or Excel based strategy without considering people, it will be just a PPT. So if you just do a people, you'll become a life coach, right? So you have to bring both of them in a business. You have to work with the people and strategy together. Fortunately, that's the strength I have, and that's what is needed for most businesses of the segments that I deal with. So that's where the perfect match happened.
Yeah, I can see that. It's very interesting that you break it down even that way. It sounds like you spend a lot of time even reviewing what it is you do yourself to get better at sort of explaining how it is you envision you fit into the overall value chain of a company's internal operations. It's a really interesting way of thinking about it. Yet again, strategic. So there's this tendency towards that. With that said, I'm curious, what are your current goals for NeoStrategy? What should the listeners know?
Yeah, so we have currently close to 15 plus companies under my portfolio. I'm helping and managing them along with the founders and CEOs. So my goal is really to make all these companies to be successful and reach the targets that we agreed. That's one. And I also am trying to productize my offering. What are the way I do? There's a lot of intellectual capability, intellectual frameworks, methodologies we have built. One of my strength and weakness is keep creating the frameworks. So now, right now, it's too much. So I'm trying to productize my offer so that it can be, extended to more companies. That's what one is that. The second thing is also, because we have built so many things in different areas in the business, we want to take one or two areas like sales and marketing kind of thing, and maybe create a group offering. Right now, I'm all doing more of a one-on-one consulting, more of a strategic consulting and bit of a coaching. And I wanted to see that. But really, my focus is how do I actually find a way which can help the companies to grow, to reach to the growth in the fastest way possible. Like, I want to bring all the tools, methodology, science, people aspect, everything together, package it, and then say the companies who are starting with me can reach in 5 years. How can they reach in 3 years? So I'm just trying to really productize and expedite it, make it like a proven framework for the growth. Of course, it also depends upon the type of the company, the entrepreneur's abilities, and all those things. But as much as I want to kind of productize so that it will really bring significant value to clients in the shortest time.
Well, I'm glad you're on this podcast, because I think you and Jason would have a lot to talk about. I'm sure as you're explaining your story, your approach, your thinking about the work that you do, Jason's doing. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more, because you do have a lot of similarities in that in that respect. Do you have any thoughts, Jason, on that?
Well, yeah, actually, YK and I have had some pretty in-depth conversation in the past
We
about,
spoke what, in a year back, Jason?
yeah, my year and a half ago, I think it was probably. It's been a little while, but there's a lot of syncrasies between what we do, and what he does with his company.
Yeah.
There's differences, of course, but I mean, there's a lot of things that are very similar in the way that we operate at the core, which, what I've found is there's not a lot of companies that they don't truly operate like under their own IP, right? They've went and borrowed other people's IP and this, that, and the other. And I know YK, that he's like me. He's got his own IP, his own process, all that stuff. And you can't replace that, right? Because that comes with pure experience, not going to, I'm not going to name any names, but not going to like some other company and like white labeling their IP, right?
Right.
That you don't even know if that shit works or not. Right?
No, actually, I was, before I was starting my own business, the good thing about what I really like about what I've done so far is nothing was copied, borrowed, or just used something, right? So it's everything concepts that I work with. All my clients knows about some of these concepts. They're like very fresh, new kinds of things. And I was given in this franchisee kind of opportunities earlier, like, hey, you can buy this a franchisee and you can run. But the whole point of me coming out was not to take something and just do it. Then I would have stayed back in corporate and, just continued like that. So my thing is just want to create. But so this is what excites me. And also sometimes some of my close clients told me, hey, Vaiki, you are exposing a lot of your IP. You need to just hide it. I say, it's not coming out of overconfidence. It's coming out of my strength. I'll say by the time the other guy copies my IP, I can create another IP. So don't worry. So
Right.
it's just purely, that's my strength. It's not overconfidence. It's just like, on the fly, I can create some new stuff very easily, and then I can pick up the cues very fast. So IP is like our strength. In fact, on that note, I would say I last year in India, I got a what do you call this? India's most creative / innovative coach of 2021, the National Level Business Coach Award. I'm the creative and innovation coach. The reason being, this is under the business coaching category. The reason being, we created, I think, 26 frameworks. So including the one I will show you, maybe I don't know whether I showed this to Jason. This is one of the planner. It's called Neo Planner. Which is exclusively created for entrepreneurs and executives. So this is again, like this, we have multiple IPs. As I said earlier, my problem is too much of IP. I'm not trying to standardize. So yeah, I mean, that's not a problem. Yeah, as Jason rightly said, I spoke to Jason. I think he also had his own thought process. That's what I liked about him. And I don't know, coincidentally, other day I just pinged, hi Jason. He said, hey, would you like to come on to the call? I said, yes. I know about you.
Yes.
Go ahead. What's really interesting is, people ask me all the time about IP and all this stuff, right? Well, so I've always like really, really had a lot of pride in really every company that we work with. Each company, it's its own set of new IP, right? Nothing's the same, because you're trying to create something very customized for a company instead of just going in and saying, oh, well, here, answer these 900 freaking questions. And then here, we'll give you this notebook full of junk and hope you can figure it out. Call us back if you can't, and we'll send you another bill and tell you how to decipher it. Right.
So with due respect to all those, folks doing different things. So what I see in my mind, Jason, is there are different things, right? There's a training, there is a coaching, there's a consulting, there is a strategy, right? I'm not so much of a training guy because I get bored if I do the same thing second time. So I'm not a training guy, right? So coaching, yes, we use when I have to coach, but like say 30% of my work involves coaching. But essentially, I'm into consulting and strategy, right? So when you're in a strategy or consulting, by default, it means you're customizing, right? So
Yeah.
that's where the whole group of the whole concept of group stuff, group coaching or group this thing. So for me, it is still a form of another training. So that's where I myself still not got into the thing, but eventually I would like to do that from a scalability point of view. But otherwise, if you given a choice, I'm more customized one-on-one strategy deep work, because as you rightly said, Jason, no two companies will have the similar kind of setups, right? While education or training, it's same. You can teach people how to do marketing, sales, and all. But when you go to the each company, the founders are different, their culture is different, their mindset is different, their businesses are different. Everything, the decision making is different. If it would have been so easy, all the guys would have come from an MBA from Harvard or Stanford would have exactly been the same company. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? They don't. The reason because that is general framework. You have to. So that's where the customization has been so helpful for me. Of course, the downside of it is you can only scale so much. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Not to build like 1,000 people company, but I'm okay to do some good, great, deep work with like 20, 30, 50 kind of companies.
I can really tell that this is where the juice starts flowing in the conversation, because we're breaking things down and talking about how it strategically fits into. It's just the strategic element in this conversation is strong. And I notice here on your website you talk about Gallup's Clifton Strengths framework. I remember taking that, and one of my top strengths was strategic. Then it was like learner, achiever, connector, and then intellectual or something like that.
Yeah. So when you say breaking down, that is strategy, right? Strategic. So I have strategy in 3 or 4. So yeah, it is the strategic. So
Yeah, no.
that's the other beauty. Since that you brought about Gallup, right? So I didn't tell you explicitly, but so one of my the breakthrough that happened when I was shifting in my career from corporate to this was about knowing the strengths through Gallup, and that's where actually my problem solving, my strategic, my futuristic, my ideation, all these things came. So that's exactly fits into what I do. It's all about the greatness of our strengths. It's not about individual anything special. So that's what makes it so easy. So that when you ask me how did you find my first client, I find the same thing now. I don't find any difference. It's just that I'm able to solve a lot more complex, deeper things now. But yeah, those are my strengths, by the way.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I figured as much. I think this has been a really interesting conversation in opening up people to the language and the thinking style that strategists. I mean, we have two really solid strategists here who literally do this and help companies solve problems. We're talking about you, YK and Jason. You guys both operate on that level. I like to think of myself as a strategist, but I haven't engaged companies on that level to be able to fit in with the conversation yet. I can see, respect, and acknowledge the kind of thinking that you both do. And so with that, I think it's a perfect opportunity to now ask if there was someone who was I want to be an entrepreneur kind of person, right? Let's say we're talking about you when you were still in corporate world and you were still like, okay, am I going to do this or not? Right? What would you say to them? Do you have any advice, any rule number one or steps that you would, knowing what you know now, say to them?
Oh yeah. So I'm actually planning to write some 10 books, but I just need someone to write. I can speak. So every company for me is a book. So I work with every person I deal with is another book. So yeah. So basically there are many, but since I have to tell you, let's say maybe I'll just say it in simple terms. The first thing is it looks a little philosophical or generic or whatever, but the first thing is knowing yourself, right? So knowing yourself is not like Aristotle knowing yourself. It is about knowing your strengths, knowing your values, knowing your beliefs, knowing your patterns, knowing your decision styles, knowing your fears. All of those things you really need to know well. Okay. One of the things that I find when I work with more than 100, no, close to 200 people. Not everybody is entrepreneur, managers, entrepreneurs, executives, all put together. One thing that amazes me is that if people would have known exactly who they are not, half of your entrepreneurship problems are solved. Trust me. Okay. Because most of the mistakes, most of the issues, most of the decisions they take, they wouldn't know exactly why they're doing certain things. That's the first thing. So know yourself completely, in and out, scientifically, thoroughly, right? Take some help and get to know your in and out, right? The second thing is building these strength-based teams. Okay, right? It starts from founding team. It starts from partners. It starts from next level teams. If you know how to minimize your weakness by finding the best guy who can bring that strength. So if you actually really bring that kind of a what I call the A1 team at a founding member team, the remaining 30% of the problem is solved. For 50%, know yourself. Remaining 30%, building the strength. Remaining 10%, I would say strategy, 10-15% strategy. Okay. And there are people like me and Jason or someone can help on the strategy. That's again just taking somebody's help, right? The rest is all mechanics. Okay, if you figure out this thing, I'll tell you why. People talk about products, services, markets, trends, recession, this and that. If you have the people with the right strengths, for example, right, they'll say, my sales is not working. Why it is not working? If you have a person if you have a person in the team who has a natural, extraordinary strength of sales, he will figure out whether it is a recession, no recession, up market, down market. So that problem is solved. If you are not able to bring innovation, if you have a person with the highest demand, he will rock it. But the problem is they don't have that complementary team. Say that there is one disruptor, he'll shake the whole board, or there is one rainmaker who will bring too many deals, but they don't know how to deliver. So if you actually know how to figure this puzzle, that's one of my strengths actually, putting all that puzzle together. So this is the second. Third thing, yeah, definitely strategy. So people, knowing yourself, building the strength-based teams. Third thing is the strategy. If you can figure these three things, I think the rest is all fine. But if you don't know who you are, you're trying to do 10 different things, it will become extremely uphill task.
I love that, man. Thank you. Yeah, it was well thought out, well said, and broken down. And I think the most digestible way you could explain such a high level concept, right?
One last point I want to add on that. So the reason why I take this approach also, let me tell you. Because again, I'm talking this from dealing with 50 plus companies, not just 1-2 companies, right? So if you take the non-strength based approach, you will take the longest path. In business, when you take the longest path, you almost lost the opportunity. Right? So you have to take the shortest path. The shortest path is, of course, the strategy, but who will execute the strategy? The people have to execute the strategy. So when you have the people exactly with the right talents, mapped like crafted like that, then it will happen in X. But if you do it in opposite, it will take 10X. By that time, there will be a lot of complications and issues. Then whole thing will get into mess. So that's the reason I am taking this, not because I have some special bias towards strengths. Because it really makes sense. Because business is nothing but set up people. Strategy, execution, issues, that issue, people, it will get sorted. Okay, just that focusing on people. So my final this thing about any entrepreneur, anybody who is venturing into it, know your strength, know your craft, and there is a room for everybody. Okay, but if you slightly deviate from that and trying to do something, you'll take a longest path.
Takes commitment. Yeah, no, I'm with it, man. Before we dive into the grand finale, I want to open the floor to Jason to see if he's got any thoughts he wants to share on what you've just said.
I mean, he really just couldn't have said it any better than he just said it.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely
Honestly,
broke it down.
right?
Yeah.
Other than, I mean, adding the things that you provide, like purpose, direction, motivation, and all these different things right into the process of it. That's the leadership part of it, right? But I mean, I couldn't have said it any better. I have nothing to add, which is not like me to not have anything extra to say, but
no, I think
so you broke it down pretty solid right there for sure.
Yeah, man. Now I can feel the level of this conversation, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs do try to take the long path. In fact, I'm one of those hard-headed people who's constantly trying to do things in the complete opposite direction of what you're talking about, instead of accepting my strengths specifically for what they are, and then just surrounding myself with the remaining missing pieces. It literally makes no sense, but there's something about this idea of control that I think also entrepreneurs, some entrepreneurs have a habit of doing, and I need to let go of that.
So that itself is a problem. So that itself is, if you're trying to control, if you're trying to command control, that's why I said know yourself 100%. That itself is a problem. You don't know why you are doing what you're doing. So I know I have seen such scenarios also. People who are extremely control freak and they want to control everything because they think that they can do better. So that's like basically they're not a delegators, right? So like this, there are many flavors. So as I said, right, as the other day someone was telling me in one of the firm about me saying that one day I want to write a book about YK. I said, look, you can write a book, but I have 50 books to write about 50 companies. The reason because there's so much of variety, so much of when people say unique, I really experience them day to day, day in day out, because the company I talk in the morning at 10 o'clock and 11 o'clock, if I see maybe they're exactly in the similar business, but the way they think, the difference is the human. The differentiating factor is the entrepreneur, not the business.
So fascinating.
Here's another thing that I want to add to that too. And that is, people always think of systematic things, right? When you hear the term, what gets measured gets managed, what gets managed gets improved. That's a people thing too, right?
Yeah.
So, you got to measure things in your life and then manage them and improve them and realize that, that's not where I need to be right there. Here's my superpower. These are my top 3 superpowers right here. Then manage and improve those 3 things, right? And if you truly do that, it's like an aha moment happens. So that's for you, brother.
Yeah. It's funny. This conversation is making me think that content is definitely where I should be, being strategic, being a learner, being an achiever. That already, like, automatically I'm learning about things and sharing what I've learned. That makes the most sense for the work that I should be, like, extremely focused on, or anything that isn't that. I mean, all the wheels are turning, and I'm sure anyone listening, I'm hoping, has had the same thing happen, because it's like there's a theme here running. Reminds me of an Andy Warhol quote. I think it was the best art is business, and the best business is art, in a way where it's like what you're doing, that creative process, like, hey, that you really enjoy. A lot of people don't seem to understand. It's a generative experience to sit there and create something, a framework, an IP, as both of you have been saying, and that's an art. It takes a combination of colors, of skill palettes, right, of experience palettes, and just the right amount to create the right dose. And these are all things that I think people, I hope, are learning to appreciate from this conversation. And with that said, I think it's time for the grand finale. But before we get there, I wanna hear it from you. Where do you prefer for people to connect with you? Is it social media? Is it your website?
Yeah, actually, I don't know how much you guys use, generally people who are who are listening this podcast, but I'm very active on WhatsApp. I don't know whether both of you use WhatsApp. Like,
Yeah.
I'm super active, so I can share my number. I mean, it's there on my website. Yeah, website. They can reach out to me through. I have my Calendly link there. My Calendly is there. My WhatsApp number is there. So my email is there. Yeah, I'm very reachable, and I respond to any of these things. So if anyone wants to get some consulting strategy related things, so they can book a session on my website or ping me on WhatsApp. I'm available.
Awesome. And that's neostrategy.in, right?
.in. Yeah, NeoStrategy.in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And then with that said, the grand finale, drum roll, please. I won't do a drum roll. Apparently, I'm not good at those. I tried it once before. but the question is, if you could have invited anybody today to sit here and, like, join the conversation, either as a listener or a contributor, who would you have loved to have had here? And I mean dead and alive, like anyone.
Yeah. So I will tell a bit of a 30-second story, and then I'll tell you the name. So when I started this work, this consulting coaching work, so one of my client told me, "Hey, you're working like a Bill Campbell. I said, who is Bill Campbell? So, he said, oh, you don't know who is Bill Campbell. I said, I don't know who that guy. So he said, you must, read his book called Trillion Dollar Coach. Then I ordered the book. I started reading the book, and I couldn't stop, reading it, because every page, every conversation, every example that is written there is basically exactly how I do it, how I'm doing. So I didn't knew who he was, but we do this. What is the commonality is, by the way, do you guys know who Bill Campbell is?
No, I'm gonna look him up.
So Bill Campbell is a coach. He was a football coach earlier, but he became tech CEO later. So he coached 4 companies: Google, Apple, Facebook, and Intuit. Okay, so I think he coached these companies more than 10 years plus. So like, it's outstanding story. The book was is no more, by the way. The Google founders, I don't know who, couple of them plus 3 people, I think, has written this book on Bill, about his work with them. So he's like outstanding person. So his clients wrote a book about it, right? So basically, he looks at the 3 things: strategy, people, and innovation. Okay, right. So that's exactly what we do. We call PBI, people, business, innovation. So he is exactly the way he builds the team, the way he puts the strategy. Is not that that's the beauty, right? He brings the both strategy and the people together, and then on top of it, the innovation part. So I would say I would have probably interviewed him or spoken to him if he's would have been alive. Yeah. So
Yeah,
he's
no,
like,
that one.
you guys should look at about him.
Yeah, I'm looking him up right now. Very interesting, and that would have made for a different kind of conversation, because you want to add another strategist to this entire experience. It would have been insane. All right. Well, Jason, go on ahead and let us know. Let us take us away, boys.
Yeah. But yeah, I always close with thank you, for taking the time to be here, sharing your knowledge with our audience. We only have 168 hours in a week, and you chose to spend a little time with us today, and that's very cool. And we appreciate that a lot.
Thank you, Jason and Philip. I really enjoyed the conversation. First of all, you guys made it so simple. It's a conversation, not like any script based. So I really like the format. And yeah, hopefully one day I will have my podcast, and then I will invite you guys. So please be my guests. So I don't know when I will launch, but I will.
We'll be there. Just let us know.
We'll be there. Thanks, brother. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. Happy July 4th.